Hi everyone, back with another video on the Walker mower. As I said that I would, I have collected the parts that I mentioned that I needed. The only thing that I haven't got yet is the bearing for the T-box on the deck, which I was going to do first. All the other parts came really quickly, so I figured we'll go ahead and get this maintenance done. So what I got, 2 quarts of the Mobil One 5W30. It's going to be 1 quart each for each of the hydro units. 2 quarts of 10W30 Mobil One, that's going to go in the engine. And the filter, the Napa filter that I say 21348. So that's going to be the oil change. I got a universal fuel filter that I'm going to change. It's not the original Walker style, but this will be fine. I'm going to give this a whirl. I think it was $3.99 at AutoZone. So I'm going to go ahead and change that out. 2 spark plugs. As I said, right, probably butchered, but RC12YC is what the Walker takes, the Kohler motor. 20 horsepower, I believe they're all right up to 26 horsepower, I think, are the same plugs. Maybe not because it's fuel injected, but you might want to check on that. But this is what's required for this. And again, I got the Champion plugs, which actually work out really well. And then I've got a PTO belt. Like I said, I wanted to change. Let me grab the old one so I can show you. This is the old one that I took off. You know, again, it's not horrible, but you can see some broken marks on it. And if we flip it inside out, you can just drop it on the floor. If you flip it inside out, you can kind of see the cracks and the wearing on the inside of the belt. You know, this was still working fine, but, you know, it probably wasn't going to make the season, I'm sure. And who wants to deal with it mid-season? So this would be a great backup belt if I ever do, you know, I've actually got a couple of backup belts now, which is nice to have. I can always, you know, throw those on in a pinch, but it's nice to keep, you know, a nice new belt on there, keep the pulleys in good shape and the blades turning. Let's see if we can compare the two. Yeah, you can see that the ridges on the new belt are much thicker than the used belt. You can see quite a bit of wear actually. So I'm glad I changed that. Pretty obvious the difference there. So what I'm going to do is basically start in the front and work my way back, finishing up with the fuel filter. So the first thing at hand, I'm going to get some lights under here, and we're going to go ahead and drain the 2 hydros. The process in doing that, what I'm going to do is loosen each of these covers. Now these are usually on pretty tight. And before you open these, you typically want to make sure there's no debris or dirt around them, because you don't want to get any, not even a speck of dirt inside this system. So I'm just kind of taking it up. As you can see, there's fluid in this one still, and fluid in that a little bit low, but not bad. And I have not, I've been mowing about 6 months without losing any of that fluid. So just kind of leaving these on loosely, that'll allow some air to get inside there. And I'm going to go ahead and drain each of these hydros from underneath. I'll get a picture, I'll get a couple of lights under there so you can see exactly what it is that you need to open up to drain it. So, all right, here we are under the machine. Going to be using a 11/16 wrench. And this is the bottom of the left-hand side hydro. This bolt right here that we need to take out to drain it. And then in the back, this is the other hydro, which is the right-hand side, and you can see right above the PTO shaft right here is the nut for that. I got 11/16 wrench, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that draining now. Stick a drain bucket under here, and we'll see what we get. And you can see there's a little, I'm trying to get the light a little bit better, little rubber O-ring around the drain plug here. Just kind of inspect that, make sure it's in good shape. Doesn't have to be perfect because it doesn't sit inside of a orifice. You just want to make sure that it does make a seal so it doesn't leak. But this one, it looks like it actually might have been leaking a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell because this had a leak in the past. It might be from that. But I'll go ahead and let that drain. And actually, if I get really fancy here, I think I can get them both going at the same time. It's got to be close. Let me try turning it this way. Aha. All right. Come on. Looks like the drain plug might be a little boogered up. There we go. And she's on there tight. There we go. Thought for sure I was gonna bust my knuckles. All you mechanics know what that's about. No matter how much you think you'll stop your fingers from hitting something when the bolt lets loose. There we go. Get some more light in here so you can see what's going on. There we go. Yeah, and it's draining right behind the bucket. So you can see that back one looks a lot cleaner. Let me see if I can wedge this. Go ahead and wedge the camera under there. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and let that drain out, and we'll be back once that's finished up. All right, I let it sit for about, I don't know, 20 minutes, and it's down to a very slow drip. So let's say the majority is out. We're going to go ahead and put the drain plugs back in. Try not to put the light right in the camera here. That one's snug. This one's a little trickier to reach. There we go. Sorry about the sniffling and whatnot. Just getting over a wonderful little cold. Go ahead and tighten these puppies up. Just, you saw they were pretty tight, but we don't need to blast them. That should be good. I'd say it's probably 30 foot-pounds, 40 foot-pounds of tightness. I'm sure there's probably a spec on the website about it, maybe not. Yeah, rag fell right in the oil, of course it did. good time to check this shaft for excess play. Now keep in mind the other end of the shaft where it comes out the back of the box has a belt on it right now with spring tension. And you can see how filthy this is. It might have a slow leak in it. I've already replaced this once. It might just be from filling it up and spilling it. I don't know. But really want to give it a good movement to see if it's got any play in it, and it doesn't. So that's the next thing that we're going to go ahead and drain is the PTO box right here. Again, the thing's filthy. Maybe I'll can't really wash it up inside. I'll have to take it back out. I gave the mower a quick washing before I brought it in. And obviously I didn't get this section down here, so just get some of this oil on that. So this bracket here is where the PTO box is bolted to. And if you see right on the other side, right in here, there's a hole. Right about where my finger is up, there's a hole in this bracket. The bracket is like a U shape. It goes down, up right there, you see it, and then it comes across. And where it comes across up at this height here, there's a hole in here, and I believe it's a 1/4 inch Allen. But I'm going to go ahead and double check that right now, and I'll show you what I use to get that out. And we're going to go ahead and drain this oil out. What I'm going to do before I do that, though, is I'm going to pull this oil out of the pan that I have, because I want to see how much I get out and look for any nastiness in it. Now this is what I got out of the 2 hydros, which should be about, like I said, about 2 quarts. I spilt a little bit on the ground there. I got to wipe up. Looks like it might be a little short. Maybe it's about 3/4 of a quart per hydro. But you can see it's dirty. It definitely could use a change. So we're going to go ahead and put some fresh fluid in that. Go ahead and wipe up this oil. Okay. All right, I'm going to get reset up and we'll work on the PTO box next. All right, I'm going to attempt to show you a close-up of where the drain is on the PTO box. Got a light under here, and I'm just going to try to stick the camera under here blindly, and hopefully it'll focus. But yeah, it looks like it's got a... You can see the mounting bolts. There's... you really can't see on that side, but you see the 1 bolt here. And there's another bolt over there right in between it. There's the hole right there. And inside there is the Allen set screw. To take out to go ahead and drain that. So we're going to go ahead and pull that out now. So I really can't get the camera to watch that, as there's not really much room under here. There's just enough room for the drain pan, and that's about it. So I will tell you the size that it takes. The size that it takes to take that off. Okay, for the PTO box, it is a 1/4 inch. You could use an Allen wrench, I guess, if you want, but I like these that you can put on the end of a ratchet. It's basically the same as this upper set screw, or whatever you want to call it, or fill plug. It's the same thing. So let me you can see how that fits in nice. And I like to take this one off because I do fill through this hole. You can fill it through the dipstick tube, but it takes forever and it ends up burping up. You literally got to sit there for about a half an hour, just slowly putting a little bit at a time. Even though it's only 7 or 8 ounces, it still takes a good amount of time to do it through the dipstick. So I go ahead and I just take the time and open this up and fill it from there. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want any debris to get in there, but I'm going to go ahead and drain the bottom right now, and we'll see what we get out of that. And this is the setup that I'm using. Just a 3-inch extension, 3/8 ratchet, and the 1/4 inch bit on it. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. There we go. and my drain bucket doesn't fit under it. I'll go ahead and jack it up a little bit. You can see that wasn't very much at all. It's probably a little bit low, but again, it doesn't take too much. So when I fill it up, I'm going to go ahead and measure it and make sure that I only put 8 ounces in it, and then I can use the dipstick down at the shop that I made that I can slide in to check it. And of course, I'm sure your model will have a dipstick, so you're able to check it off. But this is very important. Like I said, as you saw, there isn't much oil in there at all. So if it's contaminated, that same dirty oil is just gonna, be like sandpaper and continue to grind away at the inside of the gears on that box and the bearings. And it's not easy to change, and it's not fun to change. I've done quite a few of them, but it is doable. So this is the updated style. This originally didn't have a pulley with the 3 bolts on it. It had set screws with a keyway. This setup is a lot better because you can actually take the pulley off separately with the PTO box inside the unit. The other one you couldn't, because you had to slide it off the shaft, and there's not enough room with this bar in the way. So it made it really difficult to get the PTO box out. But now with this newer style, you can go ahead and put the PTO box in without the pulley on and add the pulley afterwards, which gives you a lot more clearance to be able to get it out. Here's what the drain plug or set screw, whatever you want to call it, looks like. It's just a 1/4 inch Allen. And it goes up through the hole in the frame, and then you go ahead and tighten it up. So let's go ahead and put that back on now. It's about done draining. Realize this light is probably killing the video right now. Let's see if that's any better. And this drain plug, you just want to snug up. I'd say maybe 10-15 foot-pounds, nothing crazy. Because you've got a steel plug going into an aluminum box, you certainly don't want to strip it out. So I just kind of give it a twist of the wrist, a little bit tight, just so it's not going to vibrate loose. And that's it for that. Okay, now the only other oil that we're going to drain is the engine oil, which I'm sure most of you have already done before in the past. Just to get an idea, this is the oil that came out of that PTO box. I would guess that's probably 2.5, 3 ounces. No, I guess maybe a little more than that. Maybe it's 4 or 5. So it was definitely low. It was probably down about 2 or 3 ounces. I knew that it was probably low. It's been a while since I checked it. So hopefully I didn't do any damage there. But I've run those pretty low without a problem, as long as they don't run dry. So while I have this up and I got the drain pan right there, I'm going to go ahead and drain the engine oil. And the engine oil. That's your drain plug right there. I believe that is a 3/8 Allen, or also a 8mm. Or no, 3/8 is similar to 9mm. It might be 8mm. I'll grab the wrench for it and let you know. And of course your filter's right here. So of course my drain pan, all my good drain pans are down at the shop, so I'm using this plastic container that isn't gonna fit under there. So let me go ahead and try jacking this up a little bit again so I can get the drain pan under there. I don't want to jack it up too much because it's going to make all the oil go towards the front, and then I won't be able to get it all drained out properly. Okay, hopefully that'll be good enough. All right, so it is 5/16 or 8mm. That's what I was trying to remember, not 3/8. So again, 5/16 or 8mm is close enough, or it might just be 8mm and 5/16 is close enough. I'm not sure, but same type of thing. Oh, that was tight. And another good idea is to open up the dipstick a little bit, just to allow the air to escape from the top, help drain it a little bit. Another good idea is to run the machine for a little while before you do this and heat the oil up, because it'll drain faster. But this has been sitting in the garage now for a couple of days, so I didn't want to start it up and get a bunch of fumes in here. So go ahead and let that drain out. I've had a couple of times where these oil filters came loose and started leaking. You can see kind of the residue on the side of the motor. That's where it was leaking from, is this the oil filter. It wasn't the mower or any seals on it. For whatever reason, it does loosen up. So I like to snug these up a little tighter than I typically would. You know, if you're changing the oil on a car, I think there's less vibration or whatever. But you definitely want to make sure this doesn't come loose. Maybe make a little mental note every time you grease all the fittings that you give this a snugging up, just to make sure it doesn't loosen up, because it will, and it has, and that's why there's oil all over this. I noticed it and topped the oil off and went ahead and tightened it up. Get some of this. Now I like to pour a little bit into the filter. Because the filter is sideways, you can't put too much in because it's just going to spill back out when you spin it on. But I like to fill it like halfway, just because when you first start it up, it's that much less that it needs to fill in the filter before it starts circulating through the engine. On a car or a truck, especially ones that the filters go up like this and they're not horizontal, you can fill this right to the top and go ahead and screw it in. So I'm just going to try to be quick so I don't lose it. I snug it up as tight as I can get by hand. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it about another half a turn if I ever get these pliers in here. Again, that is pretty tight. It's usually tighter than I would do a truck or a car filter, like I said, but I want to make sure that that doesn't come loose again. So make sure you wipe this off really good. And we can see it's just a slow drip now. And go ahead and put this back on. Nice and snug. I'm gonna try to pull this out without spilling it. There we go. And that's some dirty oil. Definitely was ready for a change. And then we got the filter right there. So now at this point, we're ready to add all the fresh fluids, which is the easy part. And then we'll go on to the other maintenance items, changing the belt out, which is pretty simple, and go ahead and give it a good grease and spraying some of the moving parts and looking for anything else that might be an issue in the future. But I think we're pretty much all set with the tractor unit itself until we get to the deck. All right, so I'm going to fill things up in the reverse order that we drained them. And we'll start with the engine oil and pull the dipstick out. Let me see if I can prop you up somewhere. Let me pull you way back. There we go. Again, I'm using the 10W30 Mobile One synthetic. This one is open because I used it to help fill up the filter. I'm gonna go ahead and clean the dipstick off really good. Make sure it's got its markings on it, which it does. And now I believe it's a little under 2 full quarts with the filter, so it's certainly 1 full. So I'm gonna put the entire quart in and then probably half of the other one and see where that brings us. Actually, let me so nothing falls in there. Battery back up. I put that down because when I was jacking it up, it created excess weight in the back, and it was teeter-tottering. Now we can get a better view in here. Okay, that's going to be pretty close. I'm pretty sure it's going to take almost this whole quart. I think but maybe 4 ounces will be left, but that's certainly plenty where it's not going to run low when we start it up. And I don't want to start it up until we finish all the other fluids and probably open the doors. So that's that. Now on to the PTO box, which is fun. And by fun, I mean not at all. Looks like the light is making the camera flicker. I don't know if it's actually flickering or not, but this is kind of a tight area to work, so I'm going to try to get in there the best I can. I don't think you got a good view. Let me and of course this bracket is right above. If you wanted to put like a long extension on here, it's impossible. Now before I take that out, I want to just make sure there's no debris around it, because there is no filter for this PTO box. It's just straight oil that sits in there and sloshes around. Okay. And now we're going to need a funnel. You guys are going to love this. Look at that puppy. Boom. Now I got a nice big bowl to pour the fluid into. So again, actually not again, I don't think I mentioned this yet. And this is important. This is what I use for a gear lube. This is going in the PTO box that we're doing now, as well as the deck gear boxes. Now, I believe they say to use a 90 weight extreme pressure oil. If your machine is new and you have low hours, I would go ahead and stick with that. There's really no reason to change. But all of this stuff is well used. I've rebuilt the box seals and bearings many times, but they're the original gears, so there's excess play and lash in them, and honestly, you'll probably be fine with this anyways in a newer mower, just having the thicker oil. But most this mower is usually used in hot weather most of the time, so that the little thicker of the oil is going to be better protection, and going to leak a little bit slower if it does leak. So I usually use this basically the best I can find, without a Mobil 1 brand on it, I guess. But so again, it's 75/140. I believe they say to use just a 75/90 or 80/90 or something like that. But this is all fine. This works good, especially if you have a used mower. I've had no issues with using this many times. So what I'm going to do is, this is what do we got here? I know there's a measure on it. Yeah, so we got 32 ounces. This is 28, and then we got 4 more up here is the quart. So we're going to bring this down. I know it's 8. It's 8 ounces, so we're going to bring this down to 24 to make sure that we've got 8 ounces in there, and then call that good enough. And I'm basically just going to keep repeating this until I've got 8 ounces in there. Almost there, about another 1 ounce. Maybe a little more. And there we go, we're down to the 28. So go ahead and put the plug back in, and that'll be all set. All right, as far as refilling these hydro units, there's a couple of things to be aware of. The way these reservoirs are, these are literally just to maintain the extra, the whole hydro unit is full, and then a little bit comes up into this container. So this is really very minuscule of what's actually in the hydro, and it has this rubber, I don't know, rubber gleeper, we'll call it. A bladder would be a better word, I guess. I've actually replaced these, which were really hard to find online. What happens is they shrink a little bit on the inside here, and the seal around the lip where this screws on ends up leaking. And that's what was happening with one of the hydros. I think it was this one up here. So I bought a couple of these new last season. Actually, kind of weird that there's some water in there, but you can see these aren't very old. These are in good shape. The other ones, and they weren't that much smaller. They were just a little bit and just enough so when you tighten the cap down, it would actually kind of go in a little bit like that, just enough to make it leak. And what was happening is it would leak out and suck in air, and it was causing an issue with the hydro, where I thought the hydro was blown out. I originally thought the problem was because of that bearing that I replaced in a previous video. It turns out that it wasn't even leaking there, and that's not the reason that that the hydro was acting the way it was. It was all just this rubber cap was letting air in, and it was aerating the fluid inside the hydro unit. Ever since I replaced this, it's been 100% fine. I've gone a full season. It might even been a season and a half now. I'm losing track of time as I get older here, but it's been a while. So this is something to keep an eye on. If your reservoir starts leaking, another thing, which I didn't clean this near as well as I should. You don't want anything. Well, I'm going to clean these out anyway, so if something gets in there, it's not a big deal. But I want you to understand how this works, because there's more to it that I'm about to talk about. So this is basically a rubber seal for the cap. Okay, so you want to make sure that is, you know, exactly the right size. If it's shrunk a little bit, it could leak. Okay, and it's also this bladder that allows, as the fluid heats up, it will expand a little bit. You know, as they always say, you can check something hot or cold, and it'll be, you know, 2 different levels. Well, the same thing here. So what'll happen is it'll be about a ½ inch higher, and it needs, you know, it has airspace in there. So basically this compresses to allow that space, and then keeps that pressure and pushes, you know, keeps it, you know, under negative pressure while it's cooling off, and allows the fluid to not get aerated and get air in it. So inside here is actually open to the elements, because if you look inside one of these caps, you'll see this little dig out right here. So it seals all the way around except right there. So outside air actually gets in there, up into here and into the top section of this. And the reason it does that, if it didn't have air and it couldn't breathe, there'd be no way for it to expand and contract. So it has to have air on this side and then sealed on the other side. So this is kind of a very important piece. It's not just a rubber seal. You know, you can't just replace this with a rubber. I guess you probably could, but you're going to end up with an aeration issue, I believe. You know, if I did that, I might put a little bit more fluid in it. If you couldn't find one of these and you were just sealing this up, you could probably get away with that, because the air would never really get to it. But something you want to be leery of as far as that goes. Now, so that's the bladder and the cap. Now inside here, there's actually a nut. You'll see it. It's just kind of molded in the plastic housing, and around that there's a screen. I believe it's just molded right into the plastic. I'm almost positive it is. And actually, no, it's down inside that hole. You might even be able to see it. It's a very, very fine screen. Yeah, you can see it. Let me grab the light here. What did I do with the light? There it is. Let's see if I can get a spot on it. You can see there's a very fine screen down there that this fluid passes through before it goes into the hydro, which is a great protection if you were to, you know, drop a piece of grass or anything in here. It won't make it in there. You know, so it's not going to hurt your hydro. If you do get a little bit in there, it will contaminate your fluid a little bit. And if you get too much in there, it will clog that up and starve the hydro from fluid. So obviously you want to keep it perfectly clean, but if you did find some debris in here, it's not the end of the world. Don't think that your hydros are blown. There's a good chance it never made it inside the hydro. So you can put a socket down here. I believe it's just a 3/4, and unscrew this, and there's just a rubber seal on the bottom of this. And I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to take both of these off, and the reason I'm doing it is just to get the remainder of that fluid out. Check the condition of that screen, make sure it's not clogged or plugged and looking really good. And I'm just going to bring it like into the sink in the house with some dishwashing detergent and clean all the debris off this so it's really, really clean. So when we put the new fluid in, there'll be nothing that gets in it. So I'll go ahead and take that off right now. It's 3/4 deep socket. She fits right in there. Now I would typically clean that socket up, make sure there's no debris, because you don't even want the slightest piece of dust in here. All right, got them both full. I know this, I'm gonna try to stick that there, okay. So just gonna double check. This one's just basically touching the bottom, which is where it's supposed to be on the fill line. And after we start it up and run it for a little bit, we'll double check it, but you wanna make sure that there's at least a little bit of fluid in here. That means it's not gonna run dry. So at this point now, we're gonna go ahead and put the caps back on. Make sure that's nice and centered. And you don't want to crank these down too much where you distort that rubber. Actually, if I remember correctly, we want to put this in here first. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a lip that will hold it. So keep it on the cap and then we'll screw it on. There we go. This we just want a little snug. That's about all we need. That fluid's not touching the bottom of that. I'm going to add just a little more. In total, I used that whole first quart and 24, so 8 ounces so far of the second quart. So it isn't a full quart, it's about 2/3 of a quart per unit. Just a little bit in there. Nice and clean. Okay. But the fuel filter again is right here. This one's filthy. You know, probably inside and outside. These hoses are starting to deteriorate a little too. I'm going to probably replace those within too long. I should probably be doing it now, but I don't have any on hand. And I need to get the mower going. So I'm going to go ahead and change this out. Just a couple of spring clamps. And like I said, I got this universal one. If you want the part number, FF14DL. And make sure that you have it in the correct direction, the fuel flow. So this side will face towards the tank and that'll go towards the engine to allow the filter to filter properly, or use the best of it anyways. So we're going to go ahead and put this one on. Like I said, you can use an original Walker one if you want, but this is going to be just fine. Especially since I haven't changed that fuel filter. I don't think I've changed it since I've had the mower, and I've never had a problem. Which doesn't mean you shouldn't change it, but it just means that, you know, I've been lucky and not had much debris get in there. All right, so we want to change out this PTO belt, and then we're going to adjust right here, which is the tension on the actual belt. So the way that I change this out is I go in through here. Just a little belt catch to go around there. Okay. All right. I don't think you can see this. Let me see if I can. Okay, this is the tension pulley. This is the engine pulley. That's the first one that we want to try to get it around. So you got to kind of turn the belt a little sideways because there's not much room between the pulley and the frame. And then lift this tensioner up to give you a little bit of room. There we go. And then it pops onto the pulley. And now on the bottom there's a little metal bar that stops the belt from falling off. Okay. And now send this down to the bottom. And this can be done and will be done without tools. So you could change this out in the field. It's just a little kind of tight to work with, but it's not hard to do by any stretch. The reason it's even being this difficult is because I'm doing this with one hand. Okay, then we want to get around this pulley. Okay, so we're around this pulley here, 3 rib, we're around the engine pulley, and now we got to get around this pulley. So as you can see, as you pull the lever up, the pulley goes up. So what we want to do is make sure it's down, and we want to fish. All right, so this pulley needs to be under the belt. It is a little easier if you take the tension off this belt to get it around it, but you can do it without it. Basically sneak the belt just like that on the other side of the pulley. And up she goes. Okay, so we're on just like we're supposed to be. Again, make sure down here you see this metal bar right here. Let me get a light in here. This metal bar right here. Make sure that the belt is on the inside up against the pulley, not on the outside. I've seen that happen before. Somebody will change the belt and it'll end up being around this pulley and around that bracket. And then you'll engage it, not even realizing it, and it's rubbing and rubbing on this metal tab, and it's just going to burn up your belt instantly. And these belts, if you buy them from the Walker dealer, I think they're 40 to 60 bucks or something like that. I got this one online. It was only $22, original Walker stock, which is a good price. So I'm going to probably order a couple more, like I said. So make sure that's the only thing you got to worry about. And then go ahead and try engaging it. Now that was really hard to pull up because it's adjusted for the old belt. And your adjustment, there's a couple of adjustments. There's a brake adjustment, which is this band right here. This band releases this pulley when you engage the blades, and then when you disengage and let it go, it allows this to tighten up. It's like a brake shoe material, and it stops this pulley. So when you disengage the blades, it slows down the blades really quick so they don't keep spinning and spinning and spinning. So you just want to make sure that when you are engaged, there is looseness and it's not rubbing on it, which it is. And then when you let go, it needs to have that tension where this bar right here, you'll see this little block. There we go. There's a little block right here. And if this block is touching the frame, now I'll move it up and down so you can see it move. Okay, that's a stop block. Now if this goes down all the way to the point where, now I'm pushing really hard on it, where it touches the frame before this brake tightens up, which is not happening because it's keeping its distance. See how I let go and it does not hit the frame? You got a little bit of a distance in there. That means the brake is working. Okay, so engage it, it's loose, the pulley can spin freely, disengage it. Again, you want to make sure that this bracket is not touching the frame or resting on the frame, and that's keeping pressure on that band. So that's the decel, or the stopping of the blades, and the acceleration of the blades is adjusted here. This screw goes into here. And basically, these are just stop nuts. This is a stop nut for the spring, so don't even worry about any of this. All you're worried about is this. Actually, all you're worried about is this jam nut right here and this threaded rod, which can be adjusted from this bolt. It's just one bolt that goes right through this whole thing into here. Okay, so what you want to have it do is when you do engage the blade, you'll notice this here is sticking out. and it sticks out, you're supposed to have, I believe it's about 1/4 of an inch sticking out. If it doesn't stick out, if it stays like how it is now when you engage the blade, it's not tight enough, because you want this spring to compress a little bit and have this protrude a little bit to know that you have proper tension on the belt. So if you go ahead and watch, it's actually a little too tight right now. You'll see that it moves out probably 1/2 of an inch, maybe even more. You could see that's almost maybe even 3/4 of an inch. That's too tight. This spring is almost completely bound up, and that's just too much. So what I actually want to do is, let's see, we're going to tighten. We want to screw this screw in, making it a shorter rod so it doesn't push back as far and it does not protrude as far. So again, from this round piece right here, this nut is sticking out right now. From the amount of movement that it has, not in total, you want it to be about 1/4 of an inch. So when I'm tightening this up, see how it's moving a little bit, moving back? You want it right about there. That's where it needs to be when the blades are engaged. Right now, I'm not going to adjust it at all because I'm going to run the blade a little bit. I'm not going to run it with the deck on, but I'm going to run the PTO box and let this new belt stretch a little bit and let it get into the grooves really good, because I think that it's going to, it'll be closer than it is. I think I still need to adjust it, but it's not that bad right now, so I'm going to go ahead and run it a little bit before I make that adjustment. But all you do is loosen this jam nut, and then you can stick a socket on here and screw it in if you want it to protrude less, or out if you need it to protrude more and actually be longer, so it puts more tension onto the belt when you lift the blade engagement here. Okay, so that's how you adjust the belt. So that's all set. Like I said, I'll do the other couple of things, get it running and bring it back in. I'm gonna just go through all the fluids, top them off, make sure everything's all set. And that'll be it for the tractor unit. Oh, I got to do the grease and oil, not the oil, the grease. But this is well worth it. You know, for the amount that you have to do this, there's 40-something grease fittings on the whole mower that you have to go through. Why not use a really good product and maybe be able to you know, skip it every other time or whatever. It's gonna stay in better. It's gonna repel water better, and it's not gonna dry up and start wearing your parts. So for an extra, you know, $3-4 for a tube of this, I think it's well worth it. I mean, this tube is going to do this whole mower, you know, for probably 2 seasons. So what's, you know, $7 as opposed to $3 for a regular tube of grease. So this is what I recommend you use on that. All right, air filter. This is the pre-filter in here. Air filter just slides in over that, and you'll feel it kind of engage into the tube there nice and tight. Right. Oh, I guess I can turn it. I thought it was clocked differently. Top, here's the drain. Is the reason why this is the top. If it gets any you know, water in there, it's supposed to drain out of this bottom piece here. You know, over to the side was okay, but I don't want it to hit anything. And now we just got the only things left to do are the fuel filter and spark plugs, which should be no problem. I already took that clamp off. Let's see if I can get in there and get the other clamp. Okay. This might be a little stubborn. What I like to do is put a pair of pliers on the hose right here and twist it. Loosen it up a little bit. Do the same thing on the other side. Now it should come right apart. Just gonna keep throwing tools at it until I can get it off. That's what I'm gonna do. As I said, it's been a while. Trying to give you guys light and me light. There we go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've never replaced this. There we go. Now I think I can fish it down. Yep. Disconnect it over here. There we go. Like I said, these fuel lines aren't in the best of shape. Luckily they're low to no pressure. They're just gravity fed to the pump. Butcher in this line, getting it off. There we go. Oh, see how dirty that was coming out of there? That's the input side. Oh, can't see it now, but a lot of dirt came out of there. Definitely glad I did that, as I'm losing all my fuel. Let's go ahead and grab the new one. Now the tank, it's coming, fuel's coming this way and going up, so make sure you got the direction. That would be wrong. I go this way. And put this clamp on. Not really supposed to reuse these spring clamps, but in a situation like this, I think we'll be okay. Just make sure she's not leaking. Seems fine. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this back up. Yep. And this is something I have not changed in a while either. Oh, these are probably the original plugs that I put when I changed the motor. So we've got some seasons on them. 5/8 spark plug socket. That doesn't look bad at all. If you've got bumpy buildup of what looks like burnt oil, you're burning oil, which is one of the biggest things that happen with these. The valve seals go, and you get a lot of blow by the piston rings when they start going. So this is, like I said, I believe I got about 3,000 hours on this new motor. I call it new, but and these are the original plugs, so they're looking really good. Probably didn't even really need to replace them, but I'm gonna go ahead anyways. The gap on the spark plug is 30 thousandths, 0.030. .030, that's not much of a gap. Yeah, spot on. Right out of the box. One's a little worse looking. It's got a little bit of debris on there, but not bad at all. A little tight. There we go. There we go. All right, spark plug change done. And that's it. Pretty much all set. I'm gonna go ahead and fire it up and drive it around outside a couple of laps and some circles, come back in and check all the fluids, make sure everything's all set. And then we just have to do the tire pressure and grease all the fittings, spray down some of the cables and some of the areas. I'll probably do a little clip on that as well. Wouldn't be a good video without a finished product. I just went and took it for a spin around in circles, engaged the blades, and checked all the fluids. The oil was a little bit low. I put about 2 more ounces, maybe. Well, I guess I know exactly what I put back in it. That's the empty one. So we've got 7 ounces left. So I put 3 ounces more in it. So in total, that's about what you're going to have left from 2 quarts when you change your oil. Again, that's 4, 5, 6, 8, yeah, 6 to 7 ounces left from 2 quarts of oil with filter is the correct amount. But like I said, you just get 2 quarts. You have a little bit to top it off throughout the as you use it. One other thing that I didn't mention that I like to do is I have this portable tachometer. It's an hour meter / tachometer. When you basically all you do is you wrap this wire around the spark plug wire, and it will, when the mower's running, it will tell you your RPM and also tell you the hours. Now I've got 0.7 hours of setting RPM basically. The top speed on motors. I just use this as a testing device. It's designed to be mounted on a machine and then having a longer wire that runs to it to keep track of your hours and RPM, but I don't need to do that. So I did just start it up, run it at full throttle, and 3600 is the max RPM that this should be running at. It was running perfectly right at 3600. I don't know if it was before. I didn't check it before I did the plugs and everything, and the fuel filter and the air filter. I'm sure it was probably a little lower and choking for fuel and air, but it's right on. I was going to adjust that on camera if it was off, and it wasn't. So there's really nothing to do there, but it's just a matter of an adjustment in here to bump it up a little bit if you needed to. So we're running great at 3600 RPM where it's supposed to be. So we're all set there, and yeah, we're pretty much good to go. I'm just going to show you the finished look of the hydros, the fluid. I ran it for a while. It's actually still warm, and let this circulate. Everything's operating perfectly fine. There's no issues, as I would expect there not to be. And let me open these up, and we'll show you that they kind of the finished height should just be. It's actually a little bit high because it's still warm, but that's okay. Just touching the bottom of this, and you can see it's actually, you can see a little bit of the dirt kind of seems to be mixing in now that it's moving the fluid around. See a little trail of dirt in there, but yeah, this didn't take any more fluid in, so it did. The method that I used to fill it up did get all the air out, and it was able to not have to refill it or add any. Same thing with this one. Nice and clean now. Nice fresh fluids in the hydros. Good to go for a while. Again, this is something I would recommend you do, fairly often if you want to keep your hydros going. I've been doing it, since I've had walker mowers back in 1990. Actually, I think it was 2000 before I had my first walker. But keep up on the fluids. That's the important thing. You don't want them to run too low and run out. You don't want to have too much engine oil. That's bad too. And you want to keep clean fluids in it. And, this machine, it'll run pretty much forever. Like I said, I've got 10,000 hours on it. Oh, update on the belt. I did run the PTO blower. Let's see if that changed any. Yeah, a little bit, I think. I'm just going to run with that because actually once I engage the blades and the pulleys are spinning, it actually felt really good. It felt like it was the right amount of tension. It's actually protruding a little farther than it should. But as I said, I anticipate the belt to stretch a little bit, so I'm just going to kind of keep it right there. Going to go ahead and lube everything up, of course. So that's in good shape. The new belt looks good. The brake worked perfectly as I expected. I let go, and within I think 2 or 3 seconds. Well, it'll probably take longer once the deck's engaged, once the deck's there. But it slowed the blower and the PTO box right down within like 2 seconds. Makes a little squeal sound, so the brake's working. And that's about it. And like I said, I was going to do a add-on for greasing and just spraying things down, but that's common sense. If it's a grease fitting, put grease in it. If it doesn't take grease, take the grease fitting out, clean it up, replace it, and make sure all your grease fittings are good. Keep fresh grease inside the grease fittings, any place that there is one. And like I said, any moving part, this, anything that moves, this linkage, anything like this here, this has been breaking apart on me. I already glued it once and I just leaned on it and broke it some more. You can see how I already put glue on it once. You can see actually it looks like it was JB Welds to connect it on. All this does is kind of knock the big debris down from getting inside here. So I've kind of been keeping it on there, but it's time for a new one of those. Anyhow, these here, anything like this that doesn't have grease fittings but moves, I'll show you what I use on my side cabinet here. Now I use PB Blaster for penetrating oil. I don't use that for this. This is what I use right here, which is a silicone lubricant. Silicone is good because it repels water. It has Teflon in it, and it kind of stays on good. I also use fluid film a lot. This is great. I use it more for rusty metals and bare metals and lubing things that are under really harsh environments, because the stuff is very expensive and it seems to go really quick. But this is a great product if you haven't tried it before. I spray my plow down. It takes a whole can, just spray it down to kind of protect it. If it's sitting outside and it prevents it from rusting, this stuff is a thick coating that stays on really good, and it does lubricate as well. You could use this for the silicone, but it's kind of overkill. You don't really need to do it. It's kind of a thick oil that's just going to grab grass and debris, where this silicone almost ends up drying completely. Basically just be careful not to get anything on the belts. I'm actually not going to spray it right now because there's a belt right under it, but just stick a rag under here and spray, just isolated areas on all the little moving parts. And then, again, like I said, the grease fittings, so like right here, just a little in there and in there. And it doesn't look like it's doing much, but it will create a layer and stop it from wearing. So, all these this right here. And all these cables still I had in the first video. I got to replace those. There's always something. These cables, anytime there's a little pivot point, spray this stuff down. Now there's little plastic bushings that you're supposed to last forever, but this stuff is fine. It doesn't eat them apart. So that's pretty much what I do with my walker and how I keep it going as long as I have. And, it runs great. Actually, don't think I started it yet, did I? Let me fire it up so you can... I don't know how great it's going to sound in the garage, but... one more thing I just thought of. If your motor backfires when you shut your walker off, I went through probably 3 or 4 years before I realized this. Shut your motor off, turn the key off with it at half throttle, and it will prevent it from backfiring. Right now, if I start it up and leave it at idle and shut it off, like you finish mowing and you pull up on the trailer and go to idle and you shut your key off, there's always one big backfire that comes out and it can bust open the muffler and maybe catch something on fire with a flame coming out. But basically you run your full speed over to the trailer, you get up in the trailer, just pull it back to about half throttle and kill it at half throttle, and it won't backfire. It hasn't backfired once since I've been doing that for many, many years. I'm pretty sure it actually says that in the book, but it might not. But I know that it doesn't hurt it in any way. So go ahead and do that if you're not doing that. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and it helps somebody out. Keep their walkers going. They are a machine with a lot of moving parts, and moving parts fail. But if you keep a good hands-on relationship with it, you should be able to keep it going and not have any surprises. All right, have a good one.